Hello and welcome to another episode of the Saints FC podcast. My name is John Bailey, and sat next to me on my sofa in our, fancy recording studio, which you can now see on YouTube if that's how you like to get your podcast. I have Mr. Tom Parker. How are you, Tom?
I'm chipper.
You're chipper. Excellent. Chipper. I think probably most people would just be guessing that's because Saints won a match at the weekend.
They underestimate me, though.
Yeah, there's another reason for us to be chipper, and we're celebrating a birthday, aren't we?
It's our first birthday, John.
It's the Saints FC podcast is 1 year old this episode. Hooray! So thank you to everyone who's bothered downloading, listening to us, told their mates about us, showed people how to use a podcasting app on their mobile phones. It's really been working. We've had a grand total of 21,948 downloads so far.
Phenomenal.
Yeah, that's quite good. We're 2/3 of the way to filling St Mary's with number of downloads.
You could say it's probably home fans on a cup tie. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah,
something like that
in the early rounds. Yeah,
early rounds. Yeah.
And there's plenty of places you can download it from. Obviously, there's like iTunes. You can listen to it on Spotify. You can watch us now on YouTube. You can listen to us on TuneIn. There's Acast. There's hundreds of different podcasting apps. Yeah. And I'll tell you what. So this is quite an interesting one. Since the start of this season, so I've kind of excluded the earlier episodes because we were still building up. We're finding our feet there.
Young.
But this season we've averaged 1,103 listens per show, it's
amazing.
Yeah, I'm quite impressed with that.
I'm shocked.
God, imagine if everyone paid £1 per show.
We'd be rich.
Yeah, well, actually, we know exactly how we'd have £21,948 between us. Not quite enough to quit the day job. And to be honest, I don't know.
Spend that on red wine.
People get this for free, don't they?
They do.
Yeah. And I suppose another great stat: we've had 10 Saints legends on the show,
which is the most exciting. thing for me.
When I kind of started putting these facts and figures together, I was rather hoping we would have 11. And so we could put out the Saints FC podcast 11, but I need to get another player on.
Well, we've not had Franny on, but you can just pretend he's been sent off. So that's.
Oh yeah. So we're just playing down at 10 men anyway. Yeah. That also includes Paul Jones, who I have interviewed, but I haven't put the podcast out yet. That will be next week's episode, so you can look forward to that next week. But really, we just want to say a big thank you to everyone for listening, sharing, interacting with us, sending your criticisms, your positive
it's all
suggestions, all of it. We absolutely love it. So if you want to send us a birthday treat or message, you can find us on Twitter at saintsfcpodcast. You can email us saintsfcpodcast@gmail.com. And to start things off, I'm going to go straight into our email correspondence. So I've had an email from Jason Dickey. Starts off, thanks for the podcast. I've been listening for the last few months after randomly finding you online. I live in the States and have no one to talk to about the Saints, so appreciate what you do.
I've been there. That's a horrible situation.
To be honest, I live in London and had no one to talk to about the Saints. It's kind of one of the reasons why we set up this podcast. He does admit he's pretty new to football. He's still learning a few bits and pieces. But he has quite a valid question, and it's a little bit long-winded, but I'm going to go through it because I think it's worth us thinking about it. So last year, Puel got sacked after going 8th because of a low point total and only a few goals scored across the season. In hindsight, had a pretty decent season and probably had something that could have been built upon. And he's wondering if we will end up saying the same of Pellegrino. So in terms of Southampton's achievements this season, at the point when he sent this email to me, we were leading the division in number of draws. We had the most chances created outside of the top 6, most possession of any team outside of the top 6, some of the highest passing percentage outside of the top 6, etc., etc. And he says, with all of those draws, you're only one converted chance per game away from winning. So, in effect, you're not far off, is his argument. Yeah. So anyway, then he goes on to tactics and substitutions. He talks about the fans booing when we brought on Yoshida in the game against Watford. And, saying that, should we at this point have gone ahead and tried to push to extend the lead, or are we better off kind of defending our lead? And he says, there's a lot of missed chances in this match as well, talking about Saints versus Watford in the FA Cup. So isn't it prudent to acknowledge you don't have the finishing quality on the pitch and try and hunker down for the last onslaught? Conservative, yes. Prudent, I don't know. What do you think? And he says, genuinely asking.
I think Pellegrino's damned if he does and damned if he doesn't, isn't he? Particularly the sub you mentioned with Yoshida coming on for Boufal. If he does that and we win, because of the mood of the fans don't trust Pellegrino. Yeah. So if he does that and we win, which we did, and we won 1-0, then it's like, he's too conservative, and what's he doing? Like, he doesn't have faith in us to score more goals. If we can see, if he doesn't do it and we concede, everyone's like, well, why didn't you take off one of the luxury players? You knew what they were going to do. It's madness. We had Yoshida on the bench. You should have stuck him on. What's the point of having him there? He kind of damns if he does, damned if he doesn't, isn't it, really?
Yeah, and I suppose, to be honest, that's kind of the situation that he's got himself into, really, Pellegrino, because
no trust.
Yeah, I mean, there is very little trust between the fans and his decisions. I mean, I saw kind of a jokey comment with I think it was Jacob Steinberg wrote his article in the Guardian saying, Saints fans are continuing with their new tradition of booing the manager's substitutions in the FA Cup. I suppose that frustration comes from the fact, and this will be something that we will talk about later on the podcast, the game at home against Brighton, starting against a side that are not in good form, that are not good quality, and starting with one up front. It's not a way that we've been used to watching Saints for the last 4 seasons. So although Garth Brooks thinks we've been flirting with relegation for the last 4 seasons, we'll get onto that as well.
Come to you, Garth.
We've actually finished 8th, 6th, 7th and 8th in the last 4 seasons. And we've done that basically with a lot of attacking football, a lot of attacking intent. And we've seen sides that go out looking fired up. I mean, particularly when Pochettino was manager, you have the pressing style. And the pressing style is great for a fan to watch. Because
it's so much fun.
Yeah, it's just commitment. People are running around. It's all about fitness. Koeman kind of was slightly more pragmatic, but took on, the pressing style that Pochettino had established.
Added a more counter-attack to it with pace. Yeah. Mane,
So, I mean, I guess the thing is like, you got to say for Pellegrino or Pellegrino, we're going to get on to pronunciation later as well. You can argue that he got it right against Watford because we got through the tie, and ultimately that's what's important. The people who are at the game watching the match will tell you that, once he made that substitution, Saints really kind of like lost their kind of impetus in the game. They were on the front foot before then. They did look like they were pushing for the second goal.
I was listening to it on Saints Player, and they the Dave Merrington commentary was that we kind of, at that point, 25 minutes to go, we kind of ceded control of the game completely.
Yeah. And I suppose, really that's where the frustrations come from. So, Jason, I think, you've got a good point. I do think Pellegrino is going to find it difficult to defend whatever he does at this point because, we've had such a dire first half of the season that people just don't trust him as manager to make the decision. So whether he's being prudent and making a defensive substitution or whether he's being, positive and making an attacking substitution and going for the win, like he did against Tottenham when we were 1-1 heading into the end, then... he's kind of brought it upon himself in the long run. I think.
And I think there's some really obvious points about that in terms of players he completely throws out that actually have transpired to be some of our most important players this season.
Yeah, I mean, starting the season without Charlie Austin in the starting 11. Yeah.
Pierre-Emile Højbjerg couldn't even get on the bench.
Yeah.
And all right, Charlie Austin has been injured, but when he came back in the team, like God knows where we'd be without those goals. Yeah. And Pierre-Emile Højbjerg has probably been our most effective player consistently over the last 2 or 3 months. Yeah.
And then also, I mean, we had another one this weekend with Mario Lemina coming back into the side and he looked fantastic.
It's amazing.
I mean, he did look terrible on Boxing Day, but that's quite a long time to have a player out when he clearly has got buckets of ability. So anyway, thank you very much, Jason, for your email. Another email here. Daniel Crouch emailed in to suggest a nickname for Pierre-Emile Højbjerg. He said Bergy, B-E-R-G-Y.
Okay, why?
Yeah, well, that's what I thought. So I emailed him back and said, why Bergie? And then he just responded with, scrap that. He'd had a couple of beers when he suggested it. So, I'm still intrigued, Daniel. Yeah. So if you're listening, do let us know where Bergie came from. I do quite like to get onto Twitter comments and see what people have said about the various episodes, pick up on the kind of like things that we going on. But something happened on my Twitter feed yesterday, which meant that I literally wasn't able to scroll back.
There was a Twitter storm.
Beyond like 2 days in my Twitter notifications, because the whole thing was taken up with Bobble Hat Gate.
I think there's been a lot of important issues this season. I think Bobble Hat Gate is up there for me.
So for those of you that are not on the Saints FC hashtag on Twitter, basically there's some guys who make some quite cool bobble hats. You've got one with
I've got one, and I bought one for my uncle, so I purchased two.
And they they copied us into a tweet promoting their hats, and then one of our listeners, a chap called St. Benjamin, said, I really like the hats, they're gorgeous, but perhaps they're a tad overpriced in my opinion. And then it just broke loose. It was about 150 messages following this.
Feral.
It did. Anyway, I think we need to move on from Bobble Hatgate. Thank you for those of you who have been Twittering in. Keep them coming. We're at Saints FC Podcast, and we generally can be found on the Saints FC hashtag. Another thing that did come up though was the pronunciation of Tadic,
Dushan,
or Tadic.
Never going to get this right.
Yeah. So basically, Northern Ireland Saints ran a poll: should it be pronounced Tadic or Tadic? Tadic preferred by Tom, Tadic preferred by me, and Tom, I'm afraid to say that Tadic won. It was quite clear.
It's fine. I'm graceful.
But then someone pointed out that neither of us get his first name right, and it should be Dushan and not Dusan. So we're both wrong on that one.
Either way, we're wrong in some way.
And then we went and bought a player called Guido Carrillo.
Why can't we just buy people called Smith?
So Guido Carrillo, should it be Carrillo? Well, perhaps not, because it's Spanish surname. Maybe it should be Carrillo, if you remember from your GCSE Spanish lessons.
He's 6'4", weighs about 18 stone. He can be called whatever he likes, as far as I'm concerned.
So anyway, then we thought it might be Carrillo or Carrillo, and then I found out that the Argentines pronounce a double L with a sh or a ch sound, which actually makes him Carricho. And that's what Adam Blackmore went for on the commentary. And so, I was watching back the highlights. So anyway, but then, of course, if that's true, Pellegrino is also Argentine, which means he should be Pellegrino. Anyway, I'm sorry, guys. We're going to pronounce the occasional word and name wrong, so you're just going to have to live with it. And another birthday, not just Saints FC Podcast, but Robbie Saints in France, who always gives us a little retweet. Happy birthday to you. And I think there's a chap called Terry as well, he rated in last week. It's his birthday as well. And it's Cristiano Ronaldo's birthday. So, yeah.
And yes,
and yesterday was Neymar's birthday. So, I think we're in good company here in terms of football. Right, let's get on to the football now. Saints 1-0 versus Watford. We're through to the 5th round of the FA Cup. I'm delighted.
Yes.
Yeah, and talking about birthdays, it was Jack Stevens' 24th birthday.
And he did a goal.
Did it with his foot. I was expecting it perhaps to be a header. A little bit, what was it? It was a shot and a rebound off the keeper, then he poked it in.
Got to be in it to win it.
Yeah, you've got to be in it to win it. So, that was the start of Jack Stevens' career. We were wondering, is he going to be a one-goal wonder like Klaus Lundekvam? Is he going to, be, I guess we'll find out later in this episode.
Who knows?
Højbjerg hit the post with what can only be described as a thunder bastard of a shot.
One of those is going to go in soon. He is rocketing.
If that had gone in, that would have been an absolute beauty.
Inspiration for Victor Wanyama.
Exactly. Shane Long, I thought, had a very good game.
Very Shane Long game.
Yeah, very Shane Long game. Did everything apart from the goal.
Yeah, very, very Shane Long.
Yeah. We just about saw out the game, although we talked about us. Taking the kind of we taking the pressure off Watford, and maybe that substitution to bring on Yoshida to shore things up didn't necessarily help us because perhaps we could have gotten 2-0 up and had a much more relaxed end to the game. But in the end, we're through to the 5th round, so I don't think we can complain.
All that matters. And with a juicy 5th round tie.
Yeah. So interestingly, the last time that West Bromwich Albion and Saints met in the 5th round of the FA Cup was in 1976.
What happened then, John?
Well, Southampton made it all the way through to the final. And then the other one, obviously, do you know what happened in the final? Perhaps
I know that this is a true story. My dad took my mum, who he was dating at the time, and not my uncle. And my uncle's never forgiven him.
Really?
Yeah, never forgiven him.
And there was another one as well. I think back in history, maybe in the 1950s or something. I have a feeling like I want to go for 1958 here. And that year, West Brom won the FA Cup. So the last 2 times West Brom and the Saints have met in the 5th round of the FA Cup, the winners of that match have gone on to win the cup itself.
That's amazing. Are you the first person to work that out?
No.
Oh. Still, though, if you say it authoritatively, people will believe you.
Yeah, so I've been doing some research. We can edit out that admission of error. Yeah, so yeah, that's. So do you think that trend is going to carry on? Are West Brom or Saints going to win the FA Cup this season?
Stranger things have happened. I'm trying to think. Leicester won the entire league. So who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? You never know with Saints. Crazy things.
Wigan won the FA Cup and got relegated.
Wigan won the FA Cup. Portsmouth, unfortunately, won it. The FA Cup has, in the last few years, thrown up a few weird things.
Yeah.
So who knows?
So here's a question, Tom. I think I've asked you this one before, and I want to ask it to our listeners. I'm interested. So do tweet us at saintsfcpodcast or email in saintsfcpodcast@gmail.com. Would you rather Saints finished 17th in the league and didn't win the FA Cup, let's say just go out to West Brom in the next game, or that Saints finished 18th in the league and won the FA Cup?
Unequivocally, would rather win the FA Cup.
Yeah.
100. There's not even a sliver of doubt, because we could get relegated. I'm very confident that we would come swiftly back up with the parachute money of his ears, with the quality of the young players we have. I also think we're a team that would be uniquely good, and I think it's something I brought up before, if we were to be relegated, because I think we've got this interesting mix of players that, like Shane Long, that might not get another Premier League contract.
Yeah.
I think we'd obviously lose some of the real talent, but they've got other players that would probably stay. A lot of that team might actually stay.
Yeah.
Might be a bit naive. Obviously, we'd lose like Bertrands and your Cedrics, but Matt Targett would be a perfectly good Championship left back. There's Sam McQueen. We've got talent in that squad, and I think that we'd lose some players, but I think we'd come straight back up.
It's an easy decision for you. I think it's an easy decision for me. I'd love to see us win the FA Cup. I've seen us get relegated before. We got relegated twice. It was pretty awful, but we came back, and getting promoted twice was pretty amazing.
Yeah, and the great thing is, if we get relegated, we will come back up, and that means that not only that, we've won the FA Cup, but we've also probably won the Championship.
Yeah, well, there we go.
So double bubble.
So easy for that. The reason why I ask is I saw someone ran a poll on Twitter, and the majority of people chose 17th.
Why? I don't understand why. This season, if we finish 17th, if anyone can name any part of it apart from Bufal's goal that's actually been enjoyable, then please tweet us or tell me. But I've not really enjoyed anything this season, and the FA Cup is our only sliver. The only thing we're going to enjoy this season is not getting relegated.
Yeah.
Whereas the FA Cup gives us a sliver of something bigger, something more exciting. I say go big.
Yeah. Yeah. I take the FA Cup all day long. No question for me. But if you're someone who would rather us finish 17th, do enlighten us.
Yeah, I'd love to know, because everyone views football in a different way. I'm just fascinated by it.
Saints won, Brighton won. This was, Wednesday, under the lights at St Mary's, fired up atmosphere.
A lot of pressure.
Oh, there's a lot of pressure.
John, you were there.
I was there. I don't think I ever necessarily feel particularly confident when I head down to St Mary's these days. But my God, any sort of like glimmer of confidence or hope that I had was kind of wiped out within 30 seconds when Brighton kind of came storming forward. We left, I think it was Izquierdo or Izquierdo.
Yeah, the Colombian dude.
Yeah, we left him unmarked in the middle of the box. And he absolutely skied it. Yeah. But just from that moment, it was just like, oh God, this is not going to be good. And it just got worse and worse and worse from there on in. You've
got to give it to Saints because they've, like Glenn Murray, when the sort of teams came up and you looked at Brighton and you went, oh, Brighton are pinning all their goal hopes on Glenn Murray. You kind of did that little chuckle and you're like, that's so cute. Well done, Brighton. He'll see you with 3 goals at the end of the season. He's comfortably outscoring, I think, all of our strikers.
Yeah. And
we make him look like a world-class player.
I know. He did get his goal against Saints again, second goal against Saints. This time with Wesley Hoot with, clumsy trailing foot in the box. Oh, when I watched it live, I was in the Northern End, so it was kind of happened in front of us. I didn't think it was going to be a penalty at first, but having seen the highlights, come back, watch the highlights on Saints player, it was just clumsy. It was a penalty.
Yeah, he did Hoyt like a kipper. And the annoying thing was that it was a challenge that Hoyt didn't need to make. No. We were actually really well marshalled in front of Solly March, who isn't a player renowned for his goal scoring. So we had plenty of players there, but for a player that is supposed to be as intelligent as Hoyt and as experienced as he just fell for it, hook, line and sinker.
Yeah. And then you think, right, now we're in big trouble. And I think you could really tell it with the atmosphere. I think the players felt the weight of responsibility on them. The fans were just kind of thinking, this is it. We're going to go down this season, aren't we? And I think I probably texted you something along those lines at this moment.
Yeah, it felt pretty... I was watching it at home and it felt pretty grim.
Yeah. And I just thought it was a really, truly terrible first half performance from the Saints. We had more of the ball than Brighton. We were kind of in control of the game, but without ever really looking properly threatening.
It was all sorts of weird like half shots and stuff that was a bit...
I wrote down a list of the chances we had. Bertrand had a half chance where he shot kind of from the edge of the box.
Yeah, but even that was weird. It was almost like they run out of ideas, so people just give the ball to me, I'm just going to whack it.
Yeah. James Ward-Prowse had a cross into Shane Long that was cut out just before it reached Shane Long.
Yeah.
It was a good cross there otherwise. Højbjerg hit the bar from his arse.
Yep.
That was about as good as it got in the first half, with the keeper clearing the ball, bounces off Højbjerg's arse, and then struck the crossbar.
They all count.
And we didn't get to the second ball quickly enough there.
No.
We had a clever corner with James Ward-Prowse laying it off to Bertrand at the edge of the box. But again, you got Bertrand shooting from the edge of the box. It's not really anything more than a half chance. And this really is kind of one of the problems that Saints have, and it was evident in this first half of this game, is that we do have a lot of possession. We do, pass the ball well, as Jason pointed out in his email earlier, but we don't create the kind of chances that look like they're going to be scored.
We don't. I was trying to think the other day when you don't see like Saints players get one-on-one, do you, very often?
No, does it? It doesn't happen too often. It doesn't happen
very often. Like, I don't know. Like, we play a weird game where... Well, I think we'll change our game now that Carrillo is in. But it was a really dire performance. And it looked kind of like the last rites, didn't it, really, for Pellegrino.
And I think Pellegrino must have been feeling that, because at half-time he made 2 substitutions, bringing Romeo and Tadic off for Carrillo and Buffal on.
Which is without doubt an attacking substitution.
Yeah, definitely. And we had 2 strikers on at this point.
Yeah, I don't know whether he really believes in playing that as a system, or he probably just thinks, God, I'm going to get murdered if I go out there, so I'm just going to throw some people on.
Yeah,
because it doesn't seem the players know how to play that system either.
No, I don't think he does believe in 2 up front. And the funny thing with this is I felt like in the first half we were putting the ball in the box, but not really having, with Shane Long on the end of it.
It was flying in. It was so weird.
Yeah, and then in the second half, as soon as we've got our new guy in who's, exceptional at finding the net with his head from the highlight reels on YouTube. Anyway,
he's massive,
and yeah, I mean, we seem to stop doing that. Stevens had another headed chance, which he put high and wide. Yeah, should have scored. But then he did make up for it with that sexy back heel finish.
It was very weird because in the first half we were actually quite adept at getting the ball down the wings, and fizzed in some really good balls. But obviously Shane Long is not in the best of form. Shane Long is good in the air, we all know that. But he was up. Is it Dunk? And I can't remember the other Brighton centre, but they are monsters. And it was just such a weird thing. And you're absolutely right. As soon as we've got our big guy on, we kind of just forgot to do that and tried to make it all intricate. And really, maybe we just needed to rough him up a little bit.
Yeah, it was very strange. I mean, can we have a moment though for Jack Stevens' back heel? I mean, it really came out of nowhere.
Pretty sexy football.
I kind of thought it might have just been a lucky deflection. And then they actually played the replay up on the big screen, and it was sexy. It was sexy, intentional back heel.
We are, as we've said many times in this podcast, massive fans of Jack Stevens. Except his defensive heading ability. But let's just gloss over that for a while.
Yeah. So I think the biggest problem for us in Saints versus Brighton, which I've kind of highlighted before, is our kind of like lack of drive to get to the second ball. When the ball spills, when the goalkeeper, kind of parries the ball, when a defender doesn't quite get hold of it. I mean, so often. I mean, when you're playing the high pressing game, you win those second balls all the time. Anyone makes a mistake, and you're on it in a flash.
And you look at Liverpool. Liverpool, brilliant at it.
Yeah, exactly, and it's because Klopp plays very similar to how Pochettino used to play at Southampton. You're a very high pressing, intense method of play, and we just don't do that. And that it really upsets me because kind of, that shows the kind of will. In a way, and there's nothing worse than paying your hard-earned cash to watch players who get paid more in a week than you do in a year or God knows how many years. It's just
we saw Lamina come back, and we'll come to the West Brom game, but I just don't understand. I would love to see Lamina and Romeo start every single game because I think they are terrifying, and if we're going to play with attacking players like Boufal, like Tadic, who don't really track back, then I think surely we can afford to have two players sit deep. Also, Lamina is a destroyer at defence, but also he is probably, seemingly, apart from Boufal, easily our most skilled player at going round people.
Yeah.
He's got amazing close ball control. So I just think just play them both. And I mean, I get very excited about the game I was at earlier this season, the Crystal Palace game, where you saw Lamina and he just monstered them.
He was fantastic, wasn't he? Right. So I mean, let's pick up at this point. Say we've beaten Watford in the FA Cup.
Yep.
We've drawn at home against Brighton. I think everybody agrees that this is not good enough. And I think at this point, Pellegrino has one game to save his Saints FC managerial career.
But you probably would have said that in earlier games this season, wouldn't you? There's probably
against Palace.
Yeah, against Palace, you probably would have said that's it for him. I don't think they've got any. We've said it before. I don't think they've got any intention of getting rid of him. I did a very angry tweet during the game, which I believe turned the game around on Saturday. But I don't think they've got any intention of getting rid of him.
Yeah, but I mean, I just think it would have been hard. It would have been hard to keep him had we not won on Saturday against West Brom. Don't you think?
Well, you'd have to ask the question, what would it take?
Yeah.
I mean, I know what it would take to get fired in my job, and you probably know what it would take to get fired in yours. What would it take for him to go?
Yeah, well, I think it would probably take us getting relegated at the end of the season. Yeah. I think that's going to be it.
Fingers crossed they don't come to that.
Yeah. Right, so West Bromwich Albion versus Saints. Really, really important game.
Doesn't get bigger than this.
Bottom of the table versus what? Second bottom, third from bottom, were we on Saturday at the time? And we're going to go into this fired up, really keep our concentration levels up.
Because we know they're going to be fired up because of Sturridge. So from the off, we're going to be on it.
Yeah.
And we know they're good at set pieces. So we're going to be on those.
Yeah, we're going to be really, really careful.
There's no way we're not going to do that.
We're going to get Jack Stevens marking Higazi.
The big danger man.
And
because Chris Brunt's set pieces are amazing. We know that. We knew that. So that's what we're going to make sure we mark against those.
So, I mean, this is the thing. So Higazi basically gives Jack Stevens a little bit of a shove, runs around him, gets a free header, and bang, we're 1-0 down. Now, I wonder, I mean, a lot of the old school managers will maybe say that man marking is something that you do, but the kind of more modern manager, the slightly more progressive manager, seems to prefer zonal marking. And having watched Jack Stevens try to man mark quite a few big men this season and quite often get bullied. I mean, Harry Kane was prime example.
Yeah, he murdered him, yeah.
Higazi, again, he's not up to the job of man marking when it comes to defending crosses and corners.
I mean, West Brom are they always have been. Always have been a team for very big men. I remember a game at St Mary's where they beat us 3-0 and they had Lukaku and Jakob and all these players were giants. But I think teams are probably targeting Stevens now. You can imagine that they're almost, if you've got 3 or 4 big lads, Stevens is going to mark one of them. So whoever Stevens is picking up, put the ball in there, because they know we love Jack Stevens. He's a great footballer, and fair play to him for sticking at Saints till the age of 23 before even getting a sniff. A lot of people could learn from that, but he is a bit weak when it comes to defensive headers, and he does seem to get targeted. And like you say, the Harry Kane goal, he got bullied out of that. Yeah,
and bullied by Higazi. But I do wonder if would it be, I mean, if Saints was zonal marking, where you kind of like the theory between man marking is you have your man, you make sure your man doesn't get the ball. Zonal marking, you have your patch of ground in the area, and if the ball comes into that patch, you're going to head it away, you're going to attack the ball. And in effect, you don't really have to worry about the players so much. Now, obviously, anytime something goes wrong with zonal marking, all of the kind of like traditional football men, point out, oh, well, if someone was man marking it, it wouldn't have happened. But I keep on seeing this, this man marking stuff just not working for Saints. So why aren't we trying something a bit more modern? And you would have thought, Pellegrino having been a defender of the school of Benitez, having worked at Barcelona. I don't know. I'd have thought he'd been a bit more modern and have zonal marking. But
maybe we're overthinking it. Maybe some players just aren't very good at certain things. Jack Stevens brings an awful lot to the table. Maybe his weakness is, which is a very unfortunate one for a centre-back, is that he's not very good in the air. But it makes you wonder what... Yeah, we do have some very big players on that pitch. Lamina, Romeu, Hoyt. You do... Like, Carrillo was playing in that game. You do wonder, like, who was picking up... who wasn't picking up the really... Why did we have our weakest guy on their really big centre-back? In the same way that why did we have, against Spurs, our weakest defensive header of the ball, probably apart from Cedric, on their number one goal threat.
Anyway, so that's when me and you both took to Twitter independently from each other.
A rage.
Yeah, I mean, mine said something along the lines of, I've got a rage building up inside of me. Nobody in the team, board or manager seems to realise and wake up Saints and block... I mean, I went...
Did you get full blocks?
Yeah, I did.
Jesus Christ.
And...
Look what you've done to him. Full blocks.
I was fuming at this point, and it really didn't look like we were going to get anything from the game. We started terrible. So slowly again.
But the number of passes that weren't going right. There was one horrible bit where I can't remember who it was, someone in the area tried to pass to Stevens at the back, and it just went out for a corner or something like that. And you could just see the players look at each other. It's like they'd never seen a football before, and they'd all been like teleported to that point and had no idea what they were doing there.
So anyway, I'm going to take total credit for this. I don't know what happened with my tweet, but suddenly all the Saints players woke up, and about 10 minutes later, bang, we were level, and then bang, we were in the lead. Again, I think I'm going to use the term again. It was a Lamina thunder bastard, wasn't it?
I love him. He's so good.
I mean, that finish was absolutely great. Laid off the ball, took one touch, lined it up, just rocketed.
I love the way it was still rising as well. Like it was kept going, and he could have hit that from about 2 or 3 yards behind him, and it would have been even better because it would have found the top corner.
And also, I mean, the thing is, he hit it so cleanly, the ball wasn't even spinning in the air. Yeah. It's just like frozen in time as it moves.
And it had this
goal.
great like Matrix style bit where it went through about 6 different forwards and defenders, where everyone kind of looked and it just found the space. Oh, it was a beauty.
Those of you watching on YouTube will be able to see two big grins on mine and Tom's face as we're talking about this. What a fantastic goal. And then we followed it up with another really great goal. And this is where you can maybe say Jack Stephens is quite good at headering.
Yeah, but he obviously, players have to stand up, don't they, and take responsibility. Yeah. And his comments after the game are very good, where he's like, I knew I'd let the team down. But also, I don't know if we're going to come on to James Ward-Prowse, but he is a man transformed. He's kind of done what he did under Puel, which is sort of 2/3 of the way through the season, kind of steps up a whole new level. And yeah, what a great corner. I mean, like, really, he kind of, it's like when you watch the pundits, they say he's used the pace on the ball. Yeah. He's just kind of redirected the pace on the ball, and it felt like one of those. It's a great corner from JWP.
Yeah, I mean, a great corner from James Ward-Prowse. The header was fantastic. It was kind of like a lobbed into the top corner, far post, and he got away from the man who got away from him in the first one. So
it's like a romantic novel.
His revenge on Higazi there. So anyway, there you go. They basically cancelled each other out, Higazi and Stephens, but they both brought a goal to the game, so made it much more exciting. We then had the Tadic 1-on-1 where the ball was kind of looped forward. I think we're in the second half now. Ball was looped forward. Yep. Tadic just tried to kind of dink it over Foster, but didn't quite work out. I mean,
didn't quite get the purchase.
Yeah, I mean that was Matt Letizia would have loved that sort of chance when he loves the little dink over the head. We had Wesley Hoot's run.
He's kind of cavaliering through.
Yeah, I mean, coming through. Gets brought down. We win the free kick. Sofiane Boufal looks like he's really keen to take it.
I like it because he kind of does this, and again, this works for people watching us. He kind of like walks over and goes like, I'll have this, knowing like a kid going... Yeah.
Knowing
knowing a kid going, I'll drive. Like, he's not going to be allowed to drive that journey, but like he's like, I'll do it, hoping that no one will notice.
Yeah.
And he kind of does it. And then, but what was brilliant, there's a number of brilliant things, and we're going to come to it, but a great bit as well is the reaction of the other players, because you see Lamina, and I think it's Romeu, I think one of them just knocks the ball out of his hands.
I think Wesley Hoot gave, I think it's Wesley Hoot, Lamina, both bowled, and Jack Stephens then went and had a word with Boufal and just says afterwards.
Like if it just, I think one of them knocks the ball out of his hands, and he goes like, oh.
But I mean, it was kind of playground stuff, but I mean, it was great to see that like the Saints players were taking responsibility. And actually, this is where you can argue that they are still playing for Pellegrino. Clearly, Pellegrino has given very clear instructions. James Ward-Prowse is the man that takes the free kicks. Yeah. And you had 3 or 4 players all sticking up for James Ward-Prowse, making sure that he got the ball to take that free kick.
Because there is a thing, isn't there, about like defenders taking penalties. And I can't. One of these clubs does this where, and you look at it and you're like, why are they? Like the best players who just not the biggest star name. Not the most talented, but the player who's best at doing that thing should do that thing.
Yeah.
And JWP is best at free kicks.
So, I mean, we just got very rudely cut off there by the batteries on my recorder.
Outrageous.
Yeah.
Can't get the staff nowadays.
So anyway, just to make sure that we get everything, James Ward-Prowse has placed the ball down.
It's a good position.
Yeah. He's looked at the goal and he's hit it, really hard, really low, into the bottom corner, quite close to Foster. But Foster already started going the other way and didn't get there. And
you've
got a theory on this, haven't you?
I have, yeah. It's a little James Ward-Prowse, free kick specialist, doesn't actually score many free kicks. Right into the podcast if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure he's only scored one before, which is against West Brom at St Mary's. I was there, I remember it well. He doesn't score many. When he does shoot, he kind of seems to go high. He tries to get it up and over, over the wall, so it dips. That's kind of what he does. And obviously we know that people like Ben Foster's going to have watched all the tapes, and know what he's going to do. So I think that by hitting it low and hard to the right, he kind of takes Foster completely by surprise.
Yeah, I mean, and it kind of looked a bit like Foster was taken by surprise, because he'd already started moving to his right, and then bam, really low, really hard. It was lovely.
It was a beauty. Yes. More of those, please, James.
3-1 up. And totally in uncharted territory for the Saints, aren't we? 3-1 up in a game. When was the last time it happened against Everton?
Everton, yeah.
Was that the last time we won a game in the Premier League?
It was, yeah, terrifyingly. It's a week. I know how long ago that was. That was a week after I got engaged. It feels like bloody ages ago.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got 3 kids, have been married,
3 kids,
for,
2 grandkids,
years, something like that,
and a divorce on the belt. So thanks for being that.
So I mean that feels absolutely great, and we really seem like we're moving in the right direction at this point. As well, I think we should, despite Buffon kind of having his little hissy fit before James Ward-Prowse took the free kick, he was the first to go and celebrate with him.
It was, and I think he probably thinks to himself, "Thank God I didn't take that." You kind of think like, "Thank God that panned out the way it did," because Buffon is a bit of a show pony, but he doesn't want to get relegated. He wants to stay up. He wants the team to win.
Yeah.
And it was nice. They showed genuine togetherness. I think.
And actually, for all the goals that the players celebrated together, they just looked so delighted. When Lamina scored his goal, the players were coming up to him, trying to celebrate him, and he was saying, "Concentrate. We've got to
focus.
Let's focus. Let's try and
because we do that. We score and we go. I mean, how many points have we given away from winning positions this year? I don't even want to think about it.
Yeah. Let's not get on to that. I think we've mentioned that too many times this year.
Yeah. Let's be focused and positive.
Let's go a little bit further through the game. I mean, Carisho had a chance with Tadic cross.
He was there was the cross from Bertrand where Foster made an amazing
that was in the
save.
first half.
That was in the first half.
Yeah.
That was a great.
And then
unlucky.
Second half, Tadic, Carisho kind of both broke forward, and unfortunately Tadic's cross wasn't quite hard enough to reach Carisho before it was cut out by, I can't remember by which West Bromwich Albion defender.
But I think we've seen this season, the team he wants to play obviously requires a big lad up front. Charlie Austin is when we probably played our best. This could be a sign of better things to come.
Yeah, I think he's a good signing. I think his first touch maybe looks like it's a little bit rusty. But I think he seems to be getting in good position, seems to be trying, seems to be working hard. I mean, he still looks very, very young.
Yeah. He's only 24. He's a kid.
Yeah.
We'll see. I mean, he must be good.
And, Longy had another chance, didn't he? Had a header.
He had a header, which I think was harder than it looked, and he got a bit of stick. It was right in front of the Saints fans.
Yeah. And then Rondon got a header as well, bring it back to 3-2.
Beautiful. Shouldered that into the bottom corner, into the far corner.
Yeah, I suppose header is not necessarily the right word.
It was another header.
It was defending from a cross. And this time Hoot was at fault.
Yeah, and Hoot, for a big man, isn't actually that good in the air, is he, either? He's not very good in the air. He got done very early in the season against Lukaku. But also, I think we need to give a shout out to Chris Brunt, because I didn't realise this until I read it, but Chris Brunt has the most assists in the Premier League over the last 2 or 3 years.
Really?
Yeah, Chris Brunt, I'm trying to find it now, desperately slowing up the podcast to try and find it. But
what's say kind of more than
he has
Eden Hazard, more than...
It's 30 assists. No player in the Premier League has got more than 30, more than him from set dead ball places. Sorry, it was a weird video just came on my laptop. No players set up more goals from dead balls in the Premier League
than Chris Brunt.
It's 30. It's amazing.
Yeah, well, I mean, we should have been prepared for that, but there we go. Saints played so well. I say that. We played very well for a very short period of time in the first half, where we got 2 goals, and looked pretty good running into half time. We played very well at the start of the second half. I think it was fairly even in the second half, actually, between the two sides.
Yeah.
I think we probably had slightly better chances. Anyway, interestingly, 2 Saints players made it into Garth Brooks' Team of the Week. Now,
yeah,
I don't think Garth Brooks ever watches Southampton, because I can't ever recall him ever putting a Saints player in previous weeks.
He's one of a class of beautifully prehistoric people that the BBC employ probably on a very decent wage, like Mark Lawrenson, who only seem to have any interest in the one club that they're notable for playing for.
I mean, I find Garth Brooks more funny than...
Garth Brooks?
What am I calling him?
You called him Garth Brooks.
Garth
Brooks is not funny. He's a multi-platinum winning artist. He married Julia Roberts. He's meant to be taken seriously.
Garth Crooks, Team of the Week. So he had Jack Stevenson the Team of the Week, so fair enough, he scored a great goal. But considering he was in there as the central defender and not as a forward, I think...
And he was definitely at fault for 1 goal of the opposition.
Exactly, against the bottom of the table
and
side.
you could argue that a cross into the 6-yard box or 8-yard box for the second goal is possibly in his purview as well.
Yeah.
It's a little bit weird.
So, I mean, fair play. So you've got Jack Stevens in. He has scored 3 goals in 3 games, which is fantastic. Scored in every goal since he turned 24. Let's hope he keeps that record up.
If he continues like this, he's going to score literally every week.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't think I would have had him necessarily in the best 2 central defenders in the Premier League this weekend. And then Garth Brooks goes on to describe blah, 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 clearly what he's seen of Jack Stevens without actually having seen him play football. And then says, Saints should hold on to him and not be a selling club.
Should we get the comments verbatim, because they're so weird.
Well, he said that we'd been flirting with relegation.
Yeah, I mean, let's get him here, because Garth, if you are listening, and we hope you are, we'd love you to come on. So I'll do the Jack Stevens bit.
Okay.
Saints, however, on the back of a fabulous 3-2 win, must decide whether they're a feeder club for the top 4 sides or going to try and win something themselves. An FA Cup triumph, perhaps, or even a period of Europe will provide stability. They've certainly provided the players over the years to do both. What they are doing, what they've done far too long, is flirting with relegation. If you flirt with relegation, the inevitable always happens.
So, I mean, let's break this down. Say, an FA Cup triumph. So, a cup triumph. I mean, we got to the cup final last season. One of only 2 cup finals. Yeah. And we didn't win it, so that was unfortunate. But yeah, gave it a good go. Probably could have got more in the final than we did, or perhaps even a period in Europe. So I mean, I don't know if you can think of perhaps maybe a season or 2 in the last 2 seasons where we kind of qualified for Europa League.
Who's that Inter Milan team we beat at home? Where are they from?
What's that? Hey, that continent that's next door to us.
And I went to the San Siro, and I'm pretty sure that's not in the UK.
Yeah, where was it?
Italy, maybe?
Yeah, in Europe.
Yeah.
Oh,
sure
right. So, yeah. So,
thanks,
okay.
Garth.
And then I think the season before, we didn't qualify for the Europa League, but we did qualify for Europe and then get knocked out in the qualifying rounds.
FC
Europa League.
Midtjylland.
So, that was 2 seasons in the Europe.
In the mixer.
Which, perhaps would provide some stability. Well, that hasn't. We had a cup final and Europe last season. Yeah. And then, certainly produced players over the years to do both, blah, blah, blah. Is flirting with relegation. When you flirt with relegation, the inevitable always happens. So, what part of 8th, 6th, 7th, and 8th is flirting with relegation, Garth?
And we've been in the bottom 3 for like 2 weeks or something.
Yeah.
And also, the inevitable doesn't always happen, because some teams always flirt with relegation and don't get relegated, because only 3 teams can get relegated. So it's a nonsense.
Anyway, then he goes on. He also puts Mario Lemina into his team. And this is good. Really bizarre. You've
not seen this.
This is
guys.
proper comedy gold. Of Mario Lemina, this lad is playing in the wrong team. Seriously. Mario Lemina is an Arsenal player if ever I have seen one. For far too long, in my opinion, Arsene Wenger has faffed around with the likes of Mohamed Elneny and Francis Coquelin. Wenger should have invested in Lemina during the summer and got in there well before Southampton did. Lemina is wasted at St Mary's. Sorry, Southampton fans, but you just do not have the class of player to bring the best out of this lad. His performance against West Brom was immense. Admittedly, we've not seen enough performances like this, but you would if you put him in a proper outfit. Oh!
So I would like to ask Garth some questions. Garth, have you ever watched Southampton Football Club before this game, which you had to watch because you played with and you're friends with Cyril Regis, rest in peace?
Yeah.
Why? So how do clubs like Southampton ever expect to improve? Or should there just be a sort of oligopoly of Man City, Chelsea, Man United, Liverpool and Spurs that are only allowed good players and everyone else should kind of know their place?
Yeah.
It's totally nuts. And also, don't pretend that you'd ever heard of Lemina before this game. like you were saying to Arsene last season, there's a guy playing for Juventus. He doesn't play every week, but you should get him. You'd never heard of him. He's paid. He's also paid basically by the taxpayer, which makes it even worse.
Garth Brooks, I've never really read anything from him and thought he's hit the nail on the head.
He's like Lawrenson, isn't he? He's just
Mark Lawrenson, who we were chatting about just before we started recording, last season predicted Liverpool to win like every single game.
Yeah, they were unbeaten.
Yeah,
Liverpool, according to Mark, they never lose.
Anyway, so I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed beating West Bromwich Albion. out of the relegation zone. Okay, so I mean, I think what is it from 10th down to second bottom is separated by 3 or 4 points at the moment.
Yeah.
I mean, it's seriously close down there. Every game really, really counts until, you know, we can pull away from it, if we can pull away from the mess. One thing which I do think is quite interesting. So do you remember we spoke about XG earlier in the season?
Oh, I was thinking about it yesterday. I have no idea how it works.
So XG, expected goal. So it rates the value of the chances. So essentially, if you have an open goal in the 6-yard box with no pressure, no one around you, that is like an XG of 1. If you're shooting from the halfway line and the keeper's on his line, that's an XG of 0. And you have everything between 0 and 1.
But how do they do? All right, how do they do XG for a game that's coming up, or is just XG just a general stat that follows you along?
XG is kind of like it's in kind of as an alternative or as an addition to shots on target and XG.
Oh, hang on.
So
is XG? No, but hang on. I see XG before the game.
No. XG is after the game.
So they only do XG after the game.
Yeah. XG is based on, say, if you've had 10 shots...
And they're all from the halfway line.
all from the halfway line, then your XG will be low. And then if you've had, like, 10 shots, 8 of them were on target, 6 of them were inside the box, one-on-ones with the keeper were really good chances, then you'd have a high number of XG.
So if you're a profligate team, like, let's be honest, Saints probably are...
You'd expect a high XG, but not many goals.
But then we don't also get many great chances, I would say. We don't ping the offside trap too often, so I don't know what that means for us.
So I mean, this is the thing which I found quite interesting. So 3-2, and it felt like we had a lot of chances. Shane Long had that chance as well, which he didn't score. Tadic had a good chance where he tried to dink it over the keeper. Correspondence had a good chance when the cross came
Very unlucky.
So and then we scored 3 goals as well. So you would expect the XG to be quite high. You would maybe expect Saints should have scored 3 goals in that game, or 2 goals, or 4 goals, or whatever. So something quite high. The XG for this was 0.9.
Is that because the difficulty of the goals, though? Because if you think,
it is.
Is that what it is? Because Lemina's goal is a wonder strike, and Stephen's goal is actually quite unusual because he's actually running away from the goal, and then obviously a free kick is. From that range is probably actually harder, isn't it? Because it's hard, you can't get it up and over, so you're limited. So is that?
So exactly, yeah. You've totally hit the nail on the head. So that's why Saints were expecting to have only scored 0.9 of a goal. So let's say 1 goal from the chances that we created in that game. Same with West Bromwich Albion. So it should really have been 1-1. So it's 0.9 versus 0.92. We'll call that 1-1. Interesting, the game against Brighton, where I felt like we had hardly any chances at all. We had a higher XG of 1.27. Which suggests that we should have had, nearly 1.5 goals.
Which would have won it for us, 1.5 to 1.
Yeah, I mean that would have been fine.
But
again, another 1-1. So, I mean, this is the thing, and it kind of goes back to Jason's email earlier, about Saints. Have we been, profligate? Have we just been wasting good chances? Is there something more to Saints under Pellegrino that we just haven't seen because Shane Long has not been banging the balls in the back of the net?
It's not just Shane Long, is it? I was thinking about this on Saturday, and Saturday kind of flattered us a little bit. Obviously, James Ward-Prowse, that's now 3 Premier League goals for the season, 4 goals in total.
Jack Stevens
has 3 goals. So Jack Stevens has 2 goals in the Premier League, so he has double that of Shane Long. He has the same as Boufal. He has infinity more than Redmond. He has only, 1 less than Gabbiadini? Has Gabbiadini scored 3? Yeah,
perhaps.
That's pretty dire.
Yeah, and so this is the interesting thing. So I was looking at the XGs and I was going, well, actually, that shows that maybe Saints, haven't been particularly good. And then I found this website, right? This is where XG comes from. So these are the statos behind it that are rating the value of every chance, and they've got a league table based on the XG. So if your team scores all of the chances that they should score on average. So Manchester City are top of the table.
They're lethal.
I mean, that's not unsurprising. Then you've got Tottenham, Liverpool, Arsenal, Chelsea, Man United. So the top 6 are the top 6. Have had the highest number of expected goals. Then next is Crystal Palace.
So hang on, does that mean Crystal Palace are the most efficient at scoring goals?
No, so this is the XG
so this
table.
is the ones they're missing.
Yeah, so Crystal Palace, who are actually 14th in the real league table, are 7th, and they would have nearly 40 points at this point, which is 13 points more than they've actually got. So this is kind of what happened at the start of the season when they weren't playing too badly, but just kept on losing and didn't score any goals.
Which, they were terrible.
Yeah. And interestingly, Southampton are 9th in this table.
God, we'd take that, wouldn't we, now?
Yeah. So, I mean, Saints should be a lot better off. So basically what this suggests is that if our strikers were converting the chances that they should do, we would be in the top half of the table, would be 9th in the division. So it'd be us, Leicester and Palace who'd be filling up the places just behind the top 6.
But you'd hope, I think we're coming into a time of a settled team as well, which I think is going to help. So you'd think now he's got his forward that he wanted, he's got the bloke he worked with before. You know, it's clear that Redmond is on the way out. You know, he kind of has you can't drop James Ward-Prowse.
Yeah. McCarthy's making that number 1
McCarthy,
shot,
who, by the way, was also that great save against a free kick. That was against Chris Brunt. I don't know, maybe a new dawn beckons.
Yeah. I'm going to just mention one more thing on XG.
Go on then.
Burnley is second bottom in the XG table.
So hang on, what does that mean? Does that mean Burnley are profligate?
It means that Burnley convert more chances than you would expect them to. So they're...
But hang on, so that puts them bottom of the table. Surely that's good.
You know, it's good. In real life, they're 7th in the real Premier League.
Which is nuts, by the way.
But in the XG League, so from the chances that they've actually created... Sorry. Right, I'll give up on XG now. Basically, Jason, you might have a point because really Southampton should be doing better from the chances that they've created. That's essentially the point that I was trying to make.
We all know that. I don't need XG to tell me that.
So the transfer window is closed. You know, I think we've already talked about Guido Carisho. We talked about him on the last podcast. We thought he would give Saints an extra option going forward. Big man up front. You know, someone to focus crosses to. James Ward-Prowse good at crossing. Guido Carisho good at heading.
Did we have a good transfer window?
Well, I don't think so. I mean, certainly not from a fan's point of view because you lose... I mean... Apparently, so the only defender that you have in your squad that can do a defensive header.
That was bad.
I mean, that is a problem. I mean, he's not exactly set the world on fire since he's been at Liverpool.
He was good on Sunday.
I mean, he was good on Sunday, but I mean, he gave away a penalty.
What's good is that he's good, but they're still conceding goals, which I like.
I mean, it is quite funny. There's definitely a lot of Schadenfreude being enjoyed by Saints fans at the moment, I think, with Virgil van Dijk's mistakes that he's making.
Yeah, and that game on Sunday, we don't often talk about other clubs, but a lot to like. If you're a Saints fan, Ali getting booked for diving, brilliant. Van Dijk giving a penalty, Klopp looking like a knob. There's a lot to like there.
I actually quite enjoyed Victor Wanyama's one
and that was great
shot that he takes per season.
Because I don't mind Victor Wanyama. It's fair enough him leaving.
And getting it against Liverpool, you know, as well.
It was a thunder strike.
I mean, obviously we missed out on Quincy Promes and Theo Walcott, both quite similar players, you know, wingers with a lot of, you know, shooting intent. But
I'm very happy. I've said it before, totally fine about missing out on Walcott.
Yeah.
Like, he will get injured within the next 2 or 3 games, and that'll be the last Everton fans see of him this season.
Yeah, I mean, we saw Sturridge as well, who's another player that we were allegedly in for at the weekend, playing for West Brom. He had one chance, really, I suppose, in the whole game. I don't think we've necessarily...
We need players that are going to play every week and that the players can get used to playing with. Like, we bring in a show pony like Sturridge. He's probably on 50 grand a week more than anyone else at Saints. He turns up, struts around a bit, pisses off at the end of the season.
Yeah.
Like, what's the point?
It's fine. I kind of think we need players that feel like they've got something to prove. So, I mean, Lamina is a great point because he was a player that was on the fringes of the Juventus team. So, you know, he's someone who he's got a few chances there, but never really got a proper run in the team. So he's the kind of player that...
Hoyt.
Yeah, exactly. Again, another player that feels like they've got something to prove. Quincy Promes, I actually think that will go through in the summer if we...
From what you believe,
if we stay in the Premier League.
Yeah, for everything you read, it seems to be that it's a done deal.
Yeah.
And that he'll be leaving Moscow to come to the glory of Southampton.
So, before we kind of like start heading towards the end of the podcast. We've got next game on Sunday at home to Liverpool.
This is like our derby, isn't it now?
It kind of is, isn't it?
Feels like a derby.
Yeah.
Feels like you're hyped for it.
Yeah. I really hope the Saints players are hyped for it, and I hope it's not just all the ex-Saints players that are totally hyped for it.
I'm quite scared of Mo Salah. I'm scared of what he's going to do.
Mo Salah is incredible, isn't he? He's got to be the signing of the season.
Ridiculous footballer.
I think I've had him captain as my fantasy team for about the last 4 months now.
Very shrewd, John. Very shrewd.
Having said that, he's still not picking up for the rest of the awful players that I've got on my fantasy team. Home to Liverpool, we've got the return of Virgil van Dijk. What sort of reception is he going to get? Well,
Frosty.
Yeah, I don't think we even need to answer that question.
No, but what Saints need to do, and it's my two penneth. It's not about him. It's not about him. It's about the team we put out.
It's about Dejan Lovren.
It's about Lovren. Focus on Lovren. No, also Lovren's the one that you can niggle and make a mistake. So, but we gotta.
It's going to get quite tiring booing all of the ex-Saints players.
Well, because I was thinking about it the other day. So they've got Klein.
Well, Klein's not getting in the team anymore, is he?
No, because of various alleged things. Klein, Lallana.
Lallana is he
VVD.
still injured? You've got Virgil van Dijk and you've got Dejan Lovren. Probably both be playing.
Yeah, is that it? Isn't there another one? Not sure. Maybe
Sadio Mane.
Well, there was. Yeah, Sadio Mane, of course. Yeah, we definitely won't forget that come the end of Sunday afternoon. Yeah, we're saying need to be really careful because Sky, the game's on Sky. They're going to hype it beyond all belief. You know, Van Dijk, Liverpool. Liverpool could be either massively pumped after the Spurs game or be incredibly deflated. Both teams will have had a week of rest. So I think it could be really good. And I think if Saints set about Liverpool with Lamina and Romeu, and if we can get Carrillo pinpointing Lovren rather than being stuck with Van Dijk, if we can do a Glenn Murray on him, then hell, I'm the world's biggest optimist.
So what are we going to go for a prediction here, Tom?
Yeah, we'll lose 2-0. No, I think
since Van Dijk has left Southampton to join Liverpool, Liverpool have not won a Premier League game that he's played in. Well, they beat Man City, but he wasn't in that game.
He wasn't.
And since he's left, I don't think Saints have lost a game.
No, you wonder about the disruptive influence, don't you? A player like that has on the squad. But why not? On any day in the Premier League, anyone can beat anyone.
Yeah.
So I'm really looking forward to it. And I think I will be until the third Liverpool goal goes in.
I'm not too hopeful. I think this could be the end of our 6-game unbeaten run, which is quite amazing to think we're on a 6-game unbeaten run. 3 wins, 3 draws. Mostly 2 of them in the FA Cup. I still love the FA Cup. I'm really pleased that we've got a win in the league now as well. And the weird thing is that 6-game unbeaten run still doesn't feel quite good enough. Does it? I think Pellegrino's still got more to prove.
He has, and if you look at where we would be, but by the way, on that Liverpool game coming out on the Wednesday night afterwards, they do have Porto away in the Champions League, so they might be tempted to rest some players. By resting, that means they'll just put them on the bench and they'll come on and score against us after that. But I don't know if we'd. Just looking at the league now, where are we? 26 points. If we'd have taken 2 extra points from Watford, which we definitely should have done. We would be sitting pretty in 11th.
We'd still only be 4 points off the relegation zone. And I think, this is what did for Puel yesterday. It's like, whilst we can all say he finished 8th and got to a cup final, he finished 8th, and that was, 6 points above the relegation zone?
Something like that,
It wasn't that far off. So, really, we want to see us get a few more wins, but it's not so much the game at Liverpool. It's going to be the run of fixtures after Liverpool.
All about March, isn't it, for us? Yeah. Well, also it's March, and then we have kind of this weird run of games, Burnley away, where we shouldn't get anything from, but Burnley haven't been great shakes. And then it's all about March for Saints. Yeah, March is 12 points. So
the other thing as well that we're going to do before me and you meet up for a chat again, Top, is we're going to have the away trip to West Bromwich Albion in the FA Cup 5th round. Do you think we'll beat them again at the Hawthorns?
You have to think we will, because as an optimist, I think that we are, apart from the Liverpool game, and let's face it, if we beat Liverpool, it's a massive if. If we do, the confidence is going to go through the roof. You got to think West Brom don't have the squad that we've got. They've got a lot of injuries. Even their two forwards, who are very good, Rodriguez and Sturridge, are very, very injury prone. They're not going to want to put, they know they're not going to win the FA Cup. They're not going to want to put.
Well, I mean, they might
out.
be looking at the 5th round history and thinking, well, if we beat Southampton, it's
inevitable. We cannot not win. So I think that hopefully we can get through. What's that? Is that then the quarterfinals?
Quarterfinals, that would be.
Anything happens.
Right, anyway, so I think that's probably enough for us. I hope you've enjoyed our first birthday episode. Thank you very much for listening. As a great birthday present for me and Tom would be for you to get onto iTunes, leave us a review, but most importantly, share the Saints FC podcast with all of your Saints supporting friends and family. I don't even care if your granddad doesn't know what a podcast is. You can get his phone, you can download a podcasting app, you can subscribe him to the Saints FC podcast and get him on to listening to it. We've got the episode with Paul Jones coming up next week as well, so do keep your eyes peeled for that. So I suppose that's it really. Keep on listening to the Saints FC podcast. Keep on telling your mates about it. Keep on tweeting us at Saints FC podcast. Keep on emailing us saintsfcpodcast@gmail.com. And we will speak to you soon.
Good night, everyone.
Cheerio.